Hello, Danielle. Nice to see you.
Hello, Diana. Wonderful to see you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So today we're going to have a conversation with Danielle Duplin. She is one of the remarkable, inspiring storytellers that will be sharing her story at our Third Act Quest Stories live event. But for now, I wanted you to get to know her a bit first. So before we delve in and have a fun conversation, I want to tell you a little bit about her. The word innovation is definitely something that comes first and foremost and at the centerpiece of Danielle's entire career and in her own personal life. After leaving Fidelity after 26 years, and as she says, working there longer than she hadn't been working there, she went on and has founded Free Wind Productions and is an award-winning public speaking coach and producer of remarkable strategic innovation programs. She also, and you'll hear from her, she has a lot on her plate, a lot of beautiful things on her plate, but she co-founded Agency, which is about worldwide innovation for living longer and aging better. She's also founded the Founders Over 55 Plus Collective to help improve the aging journey globally. So she has combined and put together this gorgeous 30 years of her diverse experience as a corporate executive, a software engineer, an entrepreneur, a nonprofit board member, facilitator, TEDx curator, creative strategist, and ecosystem builder to help her clients inform, inspire, and influence their audiences and move big ideas into action. So Danielle, I've spoken about the framework of your amazing life and what you've created now for your time post corporate exec. But tell me a little bit more about your mission and your vision in the creation of these endeavors.
Well, thank you for that beautiful introduction, Diane. I actually have to hydrate after that.
Me too.
It's interesting when you listen to your own CV, like kind of reading back to you, I realized, innovation really is the centerpiece of my professional life and my personal life, in that I believe innovation is optimism. It's, if you see something that's not working, fix it. If you have a vision for the future that doesn't exist right now, build it. If you find yourself in a place or an environment or a relationship or a company or a whole situation that is just not feeding your soul, change it. So I feel like innovation for me is the through line. And I look for opportunities and problems to solve and fabulous, smart people to solve them with, to have a shared vision for a future, and let's get after it. So yeah, and right now that's playing out through the work I'm doing with the Agency, which is helping to improve the aging journey worldwide, and I'm working with a global community of innovators, both startups, enterprises, stakeholders, policymakers, public officials, elected officials, industry leaders. We're all in this journey together to live longer and age better, and everybody has a role to play. And so where I'm playing now is figuring out how to connect those dots and connect that energy and really spark some innovative ideas and get them out there into the hands of people who need them.
Well, you're such a beautiful combination of, as you say, you're a software engineer, but you're clearly very creative, artistic, and also motivated as a leader to sort of connect people and push ideas forward. It's such a really wonderful, so it's like you've taken what are your God-given talents and you're applying them in the place that is so important right now for all of us, as the population, such a big bulk of the population now is aging post 50. So it's wonderful.
Indeed. Well, and a lot of that comes from how I was raised. So my dad, who is my hero, was one of the pioneers in computer science back in the 60s.
Wow. Wow.
So, he programmed computers like at the machine code level. So he used to quiz me on binary code strings at the dinner table for fun. And so for me, counting it, like when he taught me how to count in hex, I thought he was a wizard. And so for me, playing with key punch cards was like, that's a Saturday afternoon. My mom is a party girl, love her. And so she would sneak me out of school on Wednesday afternoons. I grew up in New York, and we would go to Broadway and watch a matinee, and then go to the Russian tea room, and then like head home and plan the dinner party for the weekend. So like I have this like, sort of problem solving, and that's fun and joyful, and then getting out there in the world and being with people, and like the whole like sort of theater, like just bring joy, into the room, like that combination. So like when I was my turn, when I was going to college, I majored in math and computer science, and I minored in musical theater. So of course my parents were like, what are you going to do with that? I was like, I don't know. I just love them both. And as it turns out, like they converge throughout my career. So like I produce innovation events that get people really excited about applying tech in ways that can make people happy. So that's my message to everybody who's listening.
Oh man, I was going to ask you about advice. I mean, one of the things I hope with this interview and conversation and with the storytelling event is that it not only motivates, women 55 plus, but also younger people, younger women who may be looking at their lives and looking at this stage of life as as one to fear, but it's clear you're telling us, and you're innovating your own way of approaching your own life at this period. So it's gorgeous.
No, this is the best time. It's the best, because you've worked on so many aspects of your personality and your passions, and you've honed them, and maybe you really got deep into your hobby, alongside your profession, and now it's a chance to like integrate them. Or like the beauty is like you do you, and you are uniquely you, and remixing all the things that you do best that fill your soul and that you bring light into the world. Like do it big, because nobody can do it better or like you. And like the world needs that, like that was the Renaissance, right? It was like the artists and the scientists mixing with the philosophers and the the king, like, and the community, and like, so if whatever you're doing, I bet you can remix it with all the other talents that you've developed and honed over the years, and come up with a way to manifest that into a paying job or a career, or something that you're doing volunteer wise, or something that gives your life an anchor and a purpose.
Well, it's creating a portfolio, holistic view of life that isn't just career. And that's one of the nagging questions I have for you around your 26 years at Fidelity. And Fidelity is an innovative company. It's an enormously successful company with a beautiful mission and very successful. But one of the things I wonder, so as a young Danielle, you had incredible inspiration from both sides of the brain, from your amazing parents. And like most individuals, or many individuals, the spark, those things that make your heart beat faster when you're younger, can tend to get buried as a career or a vision of what you're supposed to do. And most likely also the fact that you have to give so much to, raise your family, if you're lucky enough to have one, and to get your career propelled, that sometimes we lose sight. Was there a point, or were you always able to hold on to, or did you have to unearth those gifts that you had after leaving Fidelity?
Well, I would say that the scariest, and also the like highest growth curves were when I made a change, when I knew that my whole self wasn't being nourished at work, right? So when I started Fidelity, I was single. By the time I left 26 years later, I, married, 2 kids. We're already on our second house. Like the kids were going to college. So their lives went through transitions. My life went through transitions, and there are points where I really had to sort of break from what I was doing, the role I was playing in the firm, and kind of reinvent myself within the company.
Mm,
But to do so that the company benefited as well, right?
mm,
And I think that's the important part. If you want to have a long tenure within a corporation, is that the companies need you to bring your whole self to work, right? You just have to like name it and match it with a company's objectives.
mhm.
So when I was a software engineer working on a project, I loved being heads down in my computer program and building the programs. But I realized my colleagues sitting next to me, they were actually better programmers than me. But what I could do is I could talk to the business side and understand what their objectives were and translate those business requirements
Mm,
for the technical teams.
mhm.
So indeed, my whole self wasn't really at its best as a programmer. But once I became a systems engineer, that's when it matched what I could do and what the company needed. We needed people to translate business into tech, right?
Mhm.
And so then I did that for a couple of years, and then it became, well, why are we doing this? Like, then it became, well, we want to launch new lines of business. Oh, so then I had to expand my thinking and understand how this makes the firm money. How does this serve our customers? What is the strategic fit for this? Why are we doing this? What is the long arc of success look like? And how do we break that down and achieve intermediate milestones? And so I was able to think more strategically. So that like really expanded the way I was thinking. Um, and then I did that for like a decade and a half. And, then my kids, things got busy, whatever. It's like, you know what, I got to slow down. I can't keep doing this pace anymore. But that's when the Center for Applied Technology was just opening up. And I realized that what I really loved most about my job at that moment was inspiring people. I was like a mom. So it was like all about like inspiring my family, my kids, whatever. I was like in this mom mode. And I was like, I just want to inspire my colleagues about tech. And it was a perfect fit in the moment for what the Center for Applied Technology was meant to do, which is to get people excited about emerging tech and
Oh,
looking
good.
at tech that was around the corner or over the horizon, bringing it forward, de-risking it, playing around with it a little bit before we brought it into the mainstream of the company. And it was like, again, at that point in
Oh,
my
wow.
life, what
Perfect.
I needed is what the company needed. And so I wound up for the next decade running the global programs, bringing in thought leaders from all around the world, connecting in with our internal rising stars, creating rock stars out of my colleagues, right? Because made them into TV shows and put them on stage. So they felt amazing about their work. And then that led to doing TED Talks, and then that led to doing a lot of coaching. And so by the time I left the company, I was like, I'm just going to take all the favorite things I've ever done along the way and have my own consulting firm and just do that for the world.
Wow.
So you take
So
who you
you
are and
are.
you move it forward. Yeah.
And so you are. That is a beautiful journey. I don't hear this type of journey often. I
Okay.
moreover hear that someone is buried or
Ah,
their dreams are buried, as opposed to finding opportunity to bring their gifts forward to the forefront within the same organization. So what a
yes.
fabulous story. So as
That
you
makes me really mad and sad. And like stop that. I want people to just like the world and the company need you to bring your gifts. Like companies need the full creativity of everyone who shows up. Like I think it's like even if it's the same job description from your colleagues across the company, you're bringing something different to that work that nobody else can do.
Well,
You
I
know.
love what you've said, which is to bring your whole self to work.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
so what advice do you give someone, let's say, um, that aren't in a corporation that was
Hmm.
so filled with such possibility, or experience gendered ageism, or just say, you know what, there's something inside of me. I want to do my own thing. So give me some
Mm.
words of wisdom that you would give to people who are standing on the precipice and about to or trying to make that, leap of faith to do something on their own.
First of all, do it. Let's just start with that. Just do it. You know, like you just don't want to live with regret. Okay. But let's unpack it a little bit. So I coach a lot of women who have tech careers, and you know, my generation of women that entered tech field in the late 80s, you know, like it's almost like the arc of technology is sort of the arc of our careers, because like it's just been this explosion, you know, of tech in every context. So my first piece of advice would be like, do what you do, but maybe change the context. Sometimes you just have to change the context, and it like it really elevates like your, you know, reignites your passion for the work. So for instance, you know, a lot of my colleagues and peers, like, you know, maybe you start in a corporate environment and you kind of take that to its, you know, its end game, and you realize you kind of like you're just feeling trapped, or whatever reason. It's so if it just feels like you're done, fine. You grew, you learned, you had rigor, it was all great. Kind of take that into maybe a startup context. You know, you're still doing this great work that you know how to do, and you're doing it in an environment where, you know, the energy is different, the speed and the pace and the deliverables, and you're going to wear many hats, and then there's a super high risk and it's high energy, and you know, there's a lot on the line, you know, and you're really part of this hyper growth potential, or maybe it's a big flame out, you know, but there's a lot to learn there too. So, you know, take what you do, just change the context. Then a lot of us kind of went to consulting. We're like, you know what, I don't really know what I want to do, and I don't really know what the context is. So hire, you know, like we'd work for placement firms. So you just get placed for, you know, 6-month gigs, 3-month gigs, kind of do gigs for a while, you know, and, you know, go back into your LinkedIn and see all the people that you've worked with throughout your corporate career, and all the parts of your career, your clients, your collaborators, people you sold stuff to, people you bought stuff from, like people you've been on projects with, like they've all moved on too, and they're all in different places too. And presuming you've had a, you know, positive and trusted working relationship, hang out with them, call them for coffee, see what's happening. Like you'll be so surprised pleasantly to see that like you can start fitting in new ways. You know, and then, you know, then you get to another chapter where it's like, okay, I'm going to put all the pieces together and create my own thing where I'm the perch. Like I'm the perch, and I'm going to choose like which, you know, jobs I want to take. A lot of our members of the Founders Over 55 Collective indeed had very successful corporate careers, and found themselves just, whether it's their choice or not, at you know, 55, kind of without a job. And so a lot are turning to consulting to like say, well, I actually have a superpower and I can get paid for it, and let's go sell my consulting services. Other folks will collaborate with other consultants and put together like a whole, you know, like a bigger sort of package, which is very satisfying. Other folks drop that completely and go turn to their hobbies and turn their hobbies into a business.
Mm.
And I have so many examples of that happening. Other folks are like, you know, there's this problem that I see in the world. I know how to fix it. I'm going to take everything I've ever learned about being an executive, an entrepreneur, or whatever, and I'm going to go after that problem. And I'm going to build a company to solve that problem. And I'm going to find the resources. And at this age, I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to make the calls, you know, and you just go after it, you know. So it's kind of a long way of saying like, keep honing your craft and just keep applying it in new contexts to reinvigorate your motivation, but also just to kind of open up your world.
Well, I love that you've pulled together individuals that are all, you know, whichever way they're endeavoring and whatever they're creating as entrepreneurs can gain strength from each other. Because, you know, I think one of the common things I hear is there is a lapse of confidence, especially if you've been ushered out the door after what you thought was this. But so to have this collective is truly a gift. So I just, if you don't mind, do a little quick where should someone, if someone's interested in seeing what Founders Over 55 Plus is up to, where should they go online to check that out?
Oh, sure. Thank you. So if you go to foundersover55.com, it's an all volunteer group. So you'll see we've had about 20 events so far. We started with 12 people around a conference table at the Venture Cafe in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Just like we were a bunch of entrepreneurs that, wanted to be part of the startup scene, but knew at our age and stage that all the business basics are true for everybody, regardless of what your age is when you're starting a company. But there are other considerations that we wanted to talk about, like access to funding. How are we encountering ageism? How do we put together multi-generational teams? What do you do with your retirement savings? Do you kind of roll it on red on your new startup, or how do you financially? How do you kind of feel, make some good decisions? How do you want to spend your time? Can we bust the myth that in order to be successful as a startup, you have to work 90 hours a week? Because we don't really want to work 90 hours a week. We want to make sure that our health and well-being are in balance and so forth. So we had all these questions. So it's 12 of us. We now have 700 members who tune into our events around the world. So I think this is a signal that people want to explore this at this part of our lives. And it's really, really sweet, because sometimes because it's all virtual. So we have people who tune into one of our events, and they're like, I'm in the chat. I'll see them. They're like, I'm 45. Is it okay if I'm here?
That is
yes, of course.
huge. That is huge, because I can't tell you how wonderful I see that, there are divides, there are things that disconnect us, whether it be race or sex or, socioeconomic, but ageism or the age gap needs to be closed. And it only happens when people interact with each other, whether it, be socially or on a Zoom event. I mean, I am finding, I have to just say this, it's was the most touching thing at the last storytelling event we had. The woman that managed the Zoom room for us had a 12-year-old son who came in during the first night of our storytelling and stayed and asked his mom if he could come back every night of the storytelling event, because he loved to hear how happy, rewarded, meaningful. He said, why can't grandma and grandpa feel that way? So it changed his view of aging forever. So likewise, to inspire a 45-year-old to say, I can hang out with 70-year-olds and learn a lot, and vice versa. So
totally. And ageism, ageism actually was the genesis of us starting the club, because one day I look at my phone, it's blowing up, like people are texting me, right? Because I'm doing this work with, for agency, like Worldwide Innovation for Living Longer and Aging Better. And we have all these entrepreneurs of every age and stage working on all manner of innovations, for aging. And so there was a fintech conference in Manhattan, and there was a VC on stage, and they actually said, I'm never going to give money to a founder over the age of 40. And it's like, okay, fine, if that's your thesis, right? But people are like, what are you going to do about this? And I was like, well, I'm not going to get into a Twitter war, so that's number one. But I was like, well, what we're going to do is what we do best, which is build amazing companies. And let's focus on that. Let's have amazing success stories about somebody who started a company because they were scared, which is perfectly legit. Give yourself some grace. It's okay to be scared. Just do it scared. And by the time you get into it, you won't be scared anymore. I promise you. And just build great companies with meaningful lives. And we said, we actually have this little thing that we say, we're going to be so successful, people are going to want to be old.
Well, I had a woman say once in response to hearing a storyteller from someone like yourself that was older than she was. Hey, I'm almost looking forward to getting over 50. I was like, the U curve of happiness, the scientific proof that we are happiest at the beginnings and the ends of our lives doesn't mean we're miserable in the middle, but it means there's too much challenges, too many hopes and possibilities, perhaps buried, and we don't come first. The other thing that I love, and I want to close with another question that is just going to, I can't wait to hear your response, but one of the gifts of this time of our lives is being able to not only know what is in our hearts, that is
Yeah.
those things that we're most passionate about. And understand that we've gained a lot of wisdom and a lot of expertise, but also to be able to find ways to solve problems, do some good, and have there be great meaning and fulfillment. I mean, that is like
Totally.
the trifecta, really, is to know it,
Yeah.
see it, and apply it
Mhm.
toward a level of contribution in this life. And what you're doing is not only you're just enabling so much more of that by your work. So I'm
Thank you.
just thrilled that you're going to be part of our storytelling lineup. And I can't wait to hear what you'll share there. But before we say goodbye, I wanted to ask you one final question. And that is,
Sure.
if I came to you and said, you know what do you think would be a bumper sticker that we could design that would be really inspiring and motivated for people, that sort of encapsulates your life's philosophy? What would it be?
Well, I think for most of my early life, and still to this day, it like I hear my dad, better and mom, better to light one candle than to curse the darkness,
Mm,
right? Like just, you know, whatever's happening, find a thread, fix it, don't whine about it, and just, bring new light into the world. It's like
mm,
and just grow with it, right? So I feel like that's sort of the undercurrent, if you will, but like for my business and my professional philosophy, I pull it all together and I say like, see like an artist, solve it like an engineer, and share it like a rock
wow.
star. Like just look at the world with beauty and poetry and possibility and like just see the world in a beautiful way that is non-conforming and all of it, and then like use the rigor and your intellect and critical thinking and problem solving to like get after it, and when you got it, like share it, like bring other people in along with your journey and expose it, like what you're doing, Diana, with the Storyteller conference. Like you're doing this, like you're creating a platform for all these women to share and men to share their life journey, because I think we can all learn from each other. So like you're manifesting this.
Thank you for shining your light in this world and for being such an inspiration. The energy you put forth in this conversation, we're sitting in, two separate computers, on Zoom, but you've given me such just huge energy. So I just thank you for being here today. It's just been a pleasure. Thank you.
Mine too, Diana. I love the work you're doing. Keep doing it. Thank you for including me.